Welcome everyone to another Stamp Chatter video. My name's Leanne and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in beautiful British Columbia, beautiful wet British Columbia right now. So, well, that's just typical for BC. But anyway, today I'm going to show you some watercolor techniques using this new stamp set that is available in March. It's going to be a new online exclusive, and I showed this to you in the last video that I did. We stenciled this beautiful flower. So you can actually go back and look at that for reference if you want. I am going to stencil today, but I'm going to stencil with watercolors or as watercoloring. And I'm going to show you a couple different ways that I watercolor. So we're just going to use the stamp set and the stencil, nothing else that's in the suite. If you want to see all the pieces, check out my video that I did before this video. I will put a link. There is no link yet at this point to the suite until March 4th. I will put a link then in the description below. All right, so I took the dies that go with the Thankful Garden, and I just did this so I could have I don't even know what to call it, an area that I want my watercolor to be in. So, I mean, I have a couple options here. I can take, by the way, this is watercolor paper that I'm using. It's, I believe it's 100 fluid cold press cotton, in case anybody's wondering. And it is a Stampin' Up! One. But I'm going to take some clean water, and there's a couple ways you could get an effect here with watercolor. You can just lay down a whole bunch of water on your watercolor paper and then come back in with watered down ink. You can use your ink pad by squeezing the lid and then putting a couple drops of water in here, or what I'm going to do is put water first. Otherwise you spray color everywhere. And I'm actually going to put a couple drops in this way. I have learned my lesson spraying it in there when there's ink already in there and getting little splots everywhere and making a complete mess. Now, there we go. I need my water to come. I do have an ink palette somewhere. Come on, come down. There we go. All right. So I'm just going to start with one drop. This is boho blue that I'm using. And I'm going to take a plastic spoon here, and I'm just going to mix that in here a little bit. Okay. Now, I'm bringing in some clean water, clean brush. Now, like I said before, you could just lay a whole bunch of color down, dry it, and then stamp your image. But I want my color to be kind of the shape of this flower. It's not going to be exact, but it won't. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. It won't be all over the place. Okay, clean brush, not like the one I just dirtied. Clean water. And then just go in here. You won't really be able to see it. I'm not trying to get perfect here. I'm just wanting to wet down the areas that I want ink to sit in. So you don't need a ton of water. Okay, and you won't even be able to see that. And I'm not going to let it dry, but I'm going to come back here with my boho blue. I'm just going to start dabbing water in here with color. And it's going to find where the paper was wet and stick to that. So I'm going to bring in some Granny Apple Green. I really should have brought out my ink palette. That would have helped. Here it is, my Granny Apple Green. And a little bit of water in this one too. I'm going to spray it off camera here. This spray can be messy. All right, I'm bringing in a new color, not that one. Let's try this one. Okay, and now I'm gonna go where I think the leaves went. Just a little bit of color. I can't even tell where I put the water. I'm gonna trust that my ink will just flow into the areas that I put the water. I'm gonna bring in my gun and I'm gonna dry this for a second. All right, now that that's dry, I can add, it's not super dry, but it's dry enough. I'm gonna add another layer. I'm just dabbing it in. I'm not even really paying much attention to how. Okay, let's come back with the green here. And I'm gonna put another drop because I don't like how light that is. And just grab some of that. There we go, a little darker. And that's pretty much all I want. I could go back one more time. I could go back 4 more times. I'm gonna dry it again. Might come back in here. I'm gonna put another drop of boho in here. I want to grab a little bit darker. Just see what that looks like. So kind of 3 shades of blue, I guess. That's good. Dry that. Does dry fairly quickly, so you don't really have to wait that long. I'm gonna clean this up for a second here, just so that I don't accidentally get water everywhere. Close that up. Some in case you're wondering what I'm using basically, it's kind of like a shop towel, but it's those ones that are made by Kleenex. I think they're called handy towels. I love them for crafting. Absolutely love them. Buy them all the time. All right, so that is out of the way. And my water, everything out of the way that can spill. All right, so bring in one of my stamps here, the hydrangea, and some black memento ink. And then the magic will happen. Isn't that pretty? So that is one of the watercolor techniques that I use. Instead of smushing color just everywhere, I'm a little more particular about where I want my water to stay. And in order to do that, you just put clean water on your watercolor paper first. You can do this on the Whisper White You have to be a little more patient. It's not going to absorb as quickly, but it does work. So that is one way to do it. And so this is one of the cards that I made doing a similar, and it's always going to be different. This one I added obviously a darker shade of color, and actually I didn't use this template on this one. I kind of tried to just guess where the water was, and I went a little over. I like the area that I got wet on this one on the left much better, but they both work. And I did 2 colors in the leaves, but this is a fun technique to use. So let me show you another technique using the stencil and using a different kind of brush. So these are watercolor brushes, but we're going to use, believe it or not, we're going to use blending brushes. And this is a really fun technique that gives you the watercolor effect, but also gives you detail at the same time. So just as a reminder, this was the card I did on the last video, and all I did was use the stencil with the blending brushes, and I grabbed color like you normally would off the top, and then just colored in the stencil. But today we're going to use watercolor, and I did the same flower using watercolor and the same colors earlier today, so you can see the difference. It's not as defined, it's less detailed, I guess, if you want to call it that way, between the colors. And if you looked closely, you can see that the water has spread out a little bit, so it's just a different look, much softer look, if you ask me, and I actually quite like it. So we're going to do that with the hydrangea today. So I'm going to bring in some, what am I going to use? We're just going to use Whisper White. So I'm not even going to use watercolor paper. And let's see, I'm going to bring in the stencil. I'm going to cut this paper down when I'm done. So what I'm going to do is go this way. Let me just see, having a brain moment here. If I wanted to stamp that way, I think it's this way. Just want to make sure I have enough room on my paper. So I'm just going to use the top edges here. I'm going to tape that down just so it doesn't move too much. Okay, bring this in. And I'm also going to tape over this area because I did that the last time and got water where I didn't want it, even though I'm cutting it down. Okay, so essentially that's that. So what color am I going to use? I'm going to use, what am I going to use? Let's try, I'm going to try Azure Afternoon. Let me get the ink pad. All right, here's the ink pad. And I'm going to spritz water in here first. Or pour it in if you want. I just find that this spray is so fine and misty, it literally goes everywhere. It doesn't actually put a whole lot in, so I'm gonna level that out. There we go. If I were smart, again, I would bring out my paint palette, but that requires me to go digging in my closet, and don't feel like going digging in my closet. Okay, I'm just gonna put 1 drop. Can always add more drops later, and I'm only using 1 color. So let me bring in a couple of small clean brushes here. These are clean. So what am I doing? I'm gonna just use whatever's nearby. And honestly, I might actually want even more water in there. I just want a pale color to start with. Not a lot of color. So that's better. Okay, so I'm gonna take my blender brush and I'm just gonna pick up this color. It's gonna absorb in there quite a bit. And I'm just gonna rub it all over that stencil. That's it. I'm not gonna make sure it's even in color. I'm nothing. I am just simply smushing it all over. I am gonna bring in my heat tool for a few seconds. You don't have to do this part. If you want your colors to bleed together, then don't do that, but I don't really want them to bleed all that much. All right, so this is stencil number 2. So I'm gonna line that up. Again, I'm gonna put some tape there. Tape that down. That's not in the position I want. Just like that. Now I have to be careful because I do have a little bit of something showing. All right, I'm gonna add even a little more water because the blender brush picks up quite a bit, but I do want my water to be different strength of color, I guess, as I go along. So that got 2 drops in it. So you can see the water is a bit darker. So I'm gonna pick some more up. And off we go. Just really lightly, you don't have to be, see, and I actually have a bit too much water on my brush because it's pooling. I can see it pooling. I didn't want it to pool, but that's okay. That is okay. Your paper will wrinkle a little bit. That's okay. Once you glue it down, you're gonna be just fine. So this is the 3rd stencil. I'm gonna hide that little area there. Put that down. All right. I'm gonna take some of the water out of that. It was a bit wet. So you just need to play around till you kind of get your own feel for this. Again, I might actually put another drop in here. I haven't played with this color yet, so mix that around. I might even grab some over here. All right, let's try it. Okay, done it a bit wet again, a little too wet. Yeah. Okay, so that is that one. Let me bring in this other stencil and do the leaves. I'm gonna do them again in Granny Apple because it's here. I'm gonna just squeeze the lid because I don't need a lot for this one. I might not even do 2 colors. I might just do the one. So bring in my green. Whoop. That is it. I'm gonna blow on it. No, I'm not. So this is different every time you do it. Again, it depends how much water you get on your brushes. Whoa, that was fun. All right, let me put more color on my ink pad. spray this one more time. Okay, so that one was a little more defined, not quite as much water. But it's a very different look. It's a watercolor look without, you know, doing the whole, I don't know what to call it, but without spreading it everywhere. It's a little more detailed, more defined. I'm gonna just put that ink pad out of the way. Let's heat this up, dry it up. Bring in our black ink pad. And this is always where the magic happens. Ooh, pretty, pretty, pretty. It really is, I don't know, I really like this look. You'll have to play around with it yourself, but I thought the use of the blender brushes were awesome. They don't, yeah, I wouldn't get them too wet or unless you want your color to pool, but it really is sort of a practice. I've only been doing this for a day, so I'm still sort of learning. But I found this a fun technique. And so just as a side note, when you go to clean your brushes, don't soak them in water like you normally would a paintbrush. I bought these, they're actually for your face. I'm not sure what they call it. They're little silicone thing. And I put a drop of, like barely a drop of soap on there, and I just do this until it comes clean, and that will come almost white. Again, you can buy bigger ones, but for some reason I bought the facial ones and they work just fine. So let me cut this out and we will complete a card today. I'll show you what I did, so I'll be right back. Okay, so I used azure blue. It's going to be paler than that, but I'm bringing in some azure, don't even know if I'm pronouncing that right, cardstock. And I'm just going to cut a simple base, 5.5, 8.5. Score that at 4 1/4. It's going to be my base. Alrighty. And I'm going to take these postage dies. And I'm going to cut out, I think, a whisper white piece. I'll be right back. Okay, there is my whisper white with the postage die cut around it. And then I think I'm going to layer that. I think I'm going to layer it with black. So this is my postage. What is that? It is 3 1/4 by 4.5. Okay, so I'm going to take a piece of black and go 4.5 plus 1/8. And what did I say? 3 1/4, I think I said. 3 1/4. Also plus 1/8. That's gonna be my layer. Okay. Let's, where did I do with my stamp set? Okay, so while I was looking for my stamps, I found this one that I did earlier today, also with watercolor, but I think this is using boho blue and granny apple, but I put quite a bit more color in it. So this one's a little more defined, but not as defined as if you were to do just the blending brush on top of your ink pad, which is more like that. It's a little more soft, quite a bit softer. So I thought I'd show you that. Okay, so now that we have this, I think I'm gonna do that. There's a little saying down here that says, you make a difference. And then we'll bring in that black. Stamp the bottom. All right, let's get some glue. Glue this down. Again, this is just a really simple card. Although I think when you have such a big image, I like it a little more simple when you've got a really big image. All right, there's that. I'm gonna put that over top. Oh, I think my ink was not dry. Not really sure where that came from. It's a good thing we're covering it up. Nobody will see. All right, here's the front, and I will, if I can find amongst my messiness, some dimensions. Oh, I put them away. Look at that. Okay, and just pop this up. One more. So this was a fun way to add some watercolor to your stencils. And again, you just got to play with it. Just see what works for you, how much color to add, how much water to put in. It's going to be different for everybody. But this is a fun way to use your stencils and watercolor at the same time. So I hope you guys enjoyed that, and we will see you on the next video. Thanks again for watching, everyone. Bye.